Welcome, everybody. It's time once again for the next chapter with Charlie Hedges as he explores turning the page on his life and yours. Hey, Charlie.
Hey, Paul. In today's show, we walk along a journey of success and travail, for the two are really inextricably tied together. Joseph Drolshagen shares a convincing argument of the value of difficulty and how to use that difficulty for shaping the life you really want. In the two questions Joseph asks every client are, where are you now, and where do you want to believe? He believes the answer to the second question of where do you want to be always comes down to a matter of personal vision. We address those questions and many more on this truly entertaining and fabulously insightful podcast on how to overcome the obstacles that get in the way of the life you really want. With that, let's bring on our guest, Joseph Drolshagen. I'm sorry, I'm messing up your name all around here.
Covering very well, though.
Am I recovering? Okay. Welcome to the next chapter with Charlie, man.
Thank you. Great to be here.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to our time together. And I just want to mention to our audience, in addition to our conversation, we have planned to have you use me as a guinea pig to demonstrate your process for overcoming personal resistance. Now, I'm saying that will be fun or not. We'll see.
We'll make sure it is.
Joseph, how I'd like to begin the show today is with you talking about two, what I consider very important statements that you have written. You have written, one, you will never build your confidence or character within your own comfort zone. And two, difficulty is the true source of growth. Can you talk to me about those? Tell me about building confidence and character that you can't do it in your comfort zone.
Absolutely. In our comfort zone, and everything I work with is within the SMT method, which is subconscious mindset training. And it's all about being in our comfort zone, those patterns, paradigms, our belief systems, all of that's in our comfort zone. And that's really what triggers us to the actions we take or don't take, which is why so many people know what they want, but they can't take those actions. To really one of the easiest ways I can explain this is to achieve uncommon results, you have to take uncommon actions. And to do that, we cannot do so from within our comfort zone. We have to step outside of it and do things that we haven't done before in order to get different results.
So, yeah, that's great. So comfort zone has to do with sort of a failure to experiment, to test, to be curious and go out. It's just taking things as they are and living with sort of a laissez-faire attitude. Is that what you mean by comfort zone?
Yeah, I would explain it that way, and there's, unlimited ways of explaining it, but absolutely it is. We get in these comfort zones, we get in these patterns we live by. If you ever pay attention, tomorrow morning when you're brushing your teeth, try to reverse it. Try to reverse the hand you're brushing with and see what happens. It's a great minimal thing, but what a great example.
Oh, it is.
Pattern. We stroke so many times on the upper, and then we come around, however we do, but we follow that. I had a client one time that could not understand that he had paradigms, that he had patterns he was following in life. So I said, tomorrow morning when you get in the shower, I want you to lather your hair only 13 times and then rinse. He couldn't do it.
Really?
That's what happens to get to where we haven't been to, we have to do things we haven't done. And to do that means that we got to break open those patterns and try a different way. We have to break open our belief systems. Within our subconscious conditioning, Charlie, we have things that are built in as automatic beliefs for us we've never experienced. But somebody told us it happened for them. Somebody told us at one point, I started a business. To start a business, you got to be willing to trade off your life and put everything you have into it, the greatest risk of your life and everything else. So there's a lot of people who would love to start their own business, but they don't because that's their belief that they've never experienced.
Yeah, that's what I want to spend a bunch of time on. And as a matter of fact, I just want to address the difficulty question, and then I want to get into SMT. So tell me about comfort zone, and tell me about your view on difficulty is the true source of growth.
It is, at least initially, because we grow from pain. Pain will push us to do something different. Somebody loses a job, they'll start looking for another job in areas they may not have other looked for a job, otherwise looked, but because they're in that pain mode, they will do something different. Also, pain is a great motivator, but it doesn't have to be the motivator throughout all of life. And every client I work with is in some level of difficulty or struggle or pain. That's how they come to meet me, and they become open-minded enough to be willing to look at things different than what they've always done. That's a door opener. Now, once we get going forward, and you mentioned about the vision, every individual organization or corporation I work with, I come right out of the gates developing what I call a dynamic vision, what it is they want. That point, too, you said, there's a point. Where are we at right now? That's the struggle. The struggle, the pain, all that comes from there. And then the second point is helping each client develop what is that dynamic vision. I have road mapping tools and stuff. It's really about creating a life beyond what you even thought was possible before. What happens is the pain will push my clients to reach out to me and take an action they wouldn't normally take. And then from there, when we start working together, we out of the gate developing that vision. Now, instead of being pushed by their pain, what we're doing is identifying and shifting the conditioning, which opens up the door to experience more of that vision in their everyday life. So in doing so, we get pulled by the vision. That's when life gets exciting.
I love that verb, experience. We get to experience it. It's not a head deal. It's an experiential aspect of it that I like a lot.
Absolutely.
There's a guy that I follow pretty regularly, Richard Rohr, and he talks about 3 phases of life that are just recurring, and he calls it order, disorder, and reorder. And that we have an order that works until it doesn't work, and it becomes what you were calling comfort zone. And it becomes comfort zone that's not working. What is required next is disorder. We have to throw in, either we throw in or life throws in all sorts of challenges, difficulties, things that are not working in the system that we thought was working, and we come to what you call SMT and vision and what Richard Rohr calls reorder. We have to reorder. And then the beauty of that, Joseph, is that once we reorder, the reorder once again becomes order. And we have to go through the disorder and reorder. It's a continuous life cycle. What do you think of that?
I agree with it fully. Different verbiage for it, but it's the exact same process. You just laid it out perfectly. And what'll happen, I'm going to bring up my favorite quote right now, but what'll happen is we end up getting in that pattern, and we're living by our belief systems that we don't challenge and things like that. We just keep going and going and going and going, and we know that overall life will push us to change. So people that experience pain, doubt, worry, I help clients use those as accelerator to really launch their life, and we'll go into some examples there, to really launch their life beyond what they could have done had they not have had that pain. And then there's other people that buy into that fear, doubt, pain, worry as far as being, well, this is my lot in life, and they never get to change. It brings up my favorite quote by Wallace Waddles. If you are not consciously choosing to be rich, excellent, and healthy, and you are unconsciously choosing to be poor, mediocre, unhealthy.
I love that.
I look at how many people that I know that are just living in that comfort zone, living by those patterns and paradigms and the belief systems within their subconscious, just continuing to do the same day over and over and over and over. Only thing that really gets greater, the pain and the struggle of living that life, which is why people will turn to drugs and alcohol and other means to deal with that life. And the reason I can say that is because I was one of those people when I was in corporate America for 27 years. I turned to alcohol, deal with the living that life, trying to continue living that life.
I get it. I was in the same place. We probably could compare years of sobriety. That I had to deal with that issue. Where in my world of the things that I'm involved in, where I see that a lot is that belief system that becomes, after a while, gets challenged, and we hang on tight to that belief system, or we do what's happening in America, and that is no one goes to church, and I'm talking about the religious belief system. The religious belief system that believes in a tightly construed set of laws, religious expectations, a very patriarchal, non-involved God, and people are leaving, and so rather than they either accept the pain and live in it, deny the pain and live in it, make change, or just say, I need something completely different. But, I see that what you're explaining very much in the religious world.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, thank God it's changed. I also are ordained minister, and I don't lead a church because I don't like the politics, but I do guest speaking and such. And it's changed because when I was growing up, you were never going to be worthy of God, and you had to follow his commandments to a T in order to make it to heaven, and this and that and everything else. And today it's thought that, which is more true, is we are loved beyond what we can even make sense of in our head, just because we're his children, or universe, or whatever it is people believe. I personally believe in God, Jesus Christ, and all that, but whatever, but like that we are loved immensely just being his children.
Yeah, I just read, one of my friends wrote that let's see if I can get this right. We do not love to attain value. We have value because we are loved.
Yes. Love that. Great way to say that.
Yeah. So tell me, you have this SMT, you have this subconscious mindset training that, I was very fascinated, and I know mindset is also a big word of yours. Why don't you explain to us what subconscious mindset training is all about, and what happens in it, and what your goals are?
Absolutely, and we're going to get to play with it and experiment a little bit with you and I today too. But yeah, so the SMT method, which is subconscious mindset training. So the best way I can explain this is that we have a conscious mind. We have control over our conscious mind. What we know we want is in our conscious mind, and the words we use, thoughts we entertain, books we read, people we talk to, all of that's in the conscious mind. And then we have the subconscious mind, and we don't have control over that. It just absorbs whatever's in the conscious mind. So that's why people that grow up struggling families like I did in Detroit, Michigan, with a very low-income blue-collar family, they repeat that over and over and over because that's built into that subconscious. And when I was in my early 20s, if something came about easy to me, I thought I didn't deserve it because I didn't work hard enough for it. So that patterning just continues generation after generation. In that subconscious, there's this motherboard of programming that holds our patterns, our paradigms, our experiences, our beliefs. And again, like I said, it doesn't even have to be our experience to be embedded in that belief system. It can be something we heard from somebody else, never experienced firsthand. And what happens, remember I said the conscious mind is the knowing of what we want. That motherboard of programming is what triggers our brain waves, the actions we take or we don't take. And that's why people know what they want, but they can't get themselves to take the actions in order to achieve that because that conditioning is blocking it. I learned this over about almost 3 decades now that I've been a student of these works. I was truly the guinea pig for the works I do today because I wanted to change my life. From 22 years old, I knew I wanted to help millions of people live better lives because I didn't want anybody else to experience what my mom and dad experienced raising us. But I didn't even know how to do this in my own life. But it's been continuous studies, it's been continuous programs and books and creating experiments out of them and everything else. And it's really divine that this came together because I would not have been able to put this or label it or things like that to what it is today, the impact it has on people's lives. So I wouldn't have been able to do this on my own. So in doing this, it's taking and identifying that subconscious conditioning causing the limitation. Because like so many people will blame their outside situations, circumstances, and things like that for the reason why things are like they are. it always goes to that inside. It always goes from within us. We're never victims. So when you look at that, when you're able to identify that limiting belief, and it's built throughout the entire SMT method, then we can shift that. We have the tools to shift that now. It gives us a little control over the subconscious mind. Very rapidly open up opportunities, start achieving things we've never been able to achieve before. And the fact that I'm on the phone talking to you, growing up in Detroit in the struggle family I grew up in, with the life I had and everything else, being, raised that, money doesn't grow on trees. What do you think we are, the Rockefellers? And that a man is, a man gets a job, supports a family, and hopefully lives long enough to enjoy some retirement. That conditioning, I should not be here today. It's not realistic. This whole thing would have came through me, or through God to me, to be able to have the impact it has.
Yeah. When you were talking about victims, it reminds me of a quote. The same guy who did the love quote for the longest time said, there are legitimate, truly victims in the world, people who are victims of abuse and a number of things. But for most of us, there are not so much victims as volunteers. I've always loved that quote, that when we refuse to take personal responsibility, we are volunteering into some form of what we call victimhood that's really not victimhood.
And you look at people who have been through, like, one of the most terrible things I can think of is the Holocaust,
Yes.
And you look at some of those people came through that, and they used that experience to change themselves, inspire and motivate millions and millions of people with that happening to them.
Yeah, Viktor Frankl, we always refer to him in the Man's Search for Meaning.
So when we look at that, not that everybody there wasn't a victim of that and stuff like that. I would argue that, because I don't know how to go, be in something like that and not sit that way. The victim isn't the end of the line. So what are we going to do with that? And for those gentlemen, like you just mentioned, that took that pain and suffering and can't even imagine what they went through.
Yeah.
Use that for good for other people.
So tell me, in your formula, that as I understand the subconscious mindset training, vision is a key aspect of that, is it not?
We launch every client I work with. We launch with developing that vision, because if you think about it, the vision, like the way I use a vision, and I call it purposely a dynamic vision, and it includes not just business, our health and well-being, our relationships, our vocation. So to really have it all, it has to include every area of our life. But it's not just looking at, how, my business at $10 million or $20 million, whatever that may be. It's taking it and looking at how am I living life that way? My health and well-being, how's my family? Where am I going? What am I doing, as far as with free time and things like that? So yes, we come out of the gate developing that, and I have road mapping tools that helps my clients to initially put that together, but then I work one-on-one with them to boost that up. I can give you an example if you want me to here.
Please, yeah, I'd love an example.
I had a client come to me about 6.5 years ago. 13 years high in business was $7.5 million in total revenue. He wanted to get to $10 million. They were already working 60 to 70 hours a week. They didn't believe me when I said about not only can we scale your business, but we can open up more free time in doing it. Person came up with their vision at $10 million, 7.5. I helped them tweak that and adjust it. And what I do in doing that is I help anybody that wants to write their vision, help them to bring that to the level where it's still exciting. They have no idea how the heck it's going to happen. You can't put plans together how that's going to happen. And then we start, even in building that, we start building that excitement. We tap into those patterns and paradigms. So you can't do that. And then we can address them right there, right out of the chute when they come up. And then what we do, that person, in 12 calendar months, their business went from 7.5, almost toppled over $23 million. Within that year was the only year of their adult life that they took 5 weeks of vacation through that growth.
They took 5 weeks of vacation that same year. So what was the magic of the formula? So it's a vision, but there's got to be, it seems to me that there's more to it involved than just saying, this is what I want to do, this is what I envision, what other sorts of attributes?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The vision is a starting point. Once we get the vision, and we're already starting to bump up against those patterns and paradigms, that conditioning, so then we can start shifting it. And then we move into, we hear so much today in our conditioning is that if you want something, find someone who's done it and do what they did. And we have almost created this conditioning of copycatting. What happens for programs like that is even people investing in those programs, less than 1% of them don't achieve anywhere near what the person did who developed the program, because that was their unique. So what we're doing in the SMT method, helping each individual, I tell people right out of the gate, I don't have your A, B, C equals D plan. It's never worked. It's never worked for me. I look into the statistics of it. It works for less than 1% of the people taking them. But what the SMT method does is it lays out that journey or that pathway to develop that plan based on the unique individuality of every individual going through it. So once we get the vision, then we start marching forward and we start developing systems of accelerating habits. So you may, us working together on something you do, it may be something completely different than what other people do, but it's for you.
So you're going to work me through that process?
No, I'm going to work you through an initial call as far as what to do and look for some patterns and paradigms we can pull.
Okay, great. Let's take a break. We'll come back to that, but I do have a couple of questions before we get to jolting my lifestyle. So let's take a quick break here. Hi, Al. This is Charlie Hedges, and you are listening to The Next Chapter with Charlie. And I have a very special, fun, and entertaining guest, Joseph Drolshagen, who has created a process called Subconscious Mindset Training, which is SMT. And it's all about you create, if I capture this right, Joseph, it's about you creating a vision of who you want to be and then working on a process to achieve that, and you have numerous examples of success. Did that describe it well?
It is correct. I mean, that's simplifying, but it is. We come out of the gate developing that vision, but ultimately what we're doing is creating a unique roadmap or plan to success for every client that goes through the SMT.
I have a question that goes way back to our early conversation, and it's sticking with me, and I'm wondering, what sort of metaphor, or what do you use? You talked about our patterns and our belief systems as a motherboard. In order to go through the SMT and to get to our vision, is that creating a new motherboard, or is that hardwiring new, are we staying with that, or do we completely drop that motherboard and create a new one?
We can't drop it. But what we can do is identify those limiting beliefs and those patterns. We can now shift those. So I told you, my early 20s, if something came easy for me, I thought I didn't deserve it because I didn't work hard enough. Hey, I love when things show up out of the blue, when connections just kind of happen. There's nothing I could have done to make it happen. I love those things happening in my life.
Yeah,
we can shift that conditioning on those patterns. So we can shift our belief systems. And think about this, if we have that dynamic vision, as we're shifting those patterns, we're almost immediately opening up for greater opportunities to come in to existence in our life that we get to experience, just part of that comes from the vision.
So we're always going to have that part of us that we're hardwired. We need to adapt, to rewire, to reconstruct, but always knowing that our childhood patterns are going to be there. And so if we recognize them in process, then we can deal with them.
They don't have to be there like they were in childhood, though. One of the things I hear consistently from my clients, as we're working through the program, that voice in their head, the tone of that voice changes for more positive feedback. And that's because we're shifting the conditioning within the subconscious.
Is this anything like neuroplasticity?
That's a part of it, yes.
that's sort of reshaping how the unconscious or subconscious brain is working, is it not?
Yes. And what we're doing, though, is going to a deeper level, is we are actually shifting the patterns, paradigms, the belief systems, the limiting beliefs that keep causing us to go up against walls. And most people don't even realize that's what the cause of their struggle is.
Okay, I'm ready. Let's play.
Okay, in the setup for this, what we talked about on our previous call was you coming up with one thing in life you'd like experience.
Oh, yeah.
Go ahead and share that one thing with us.
Yeah, I have been I think it's been 2 years now, trying to write a book. I've got the title of the book, The Person You Can Become, and I've got a theory behind it, a driving point behind it, which states you are who you have been becoming. That's sort of the bottom line statement. And if that is true, in which, I've never met anybody that doesn't agree with you are who you have been becoming, then what that means is you will be tomorrow who you are being today. So it's not like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be. No, it's today. It's got to happen. It has to begin today. Whatever change you make has to begin, and the only way it can begin is to begin today. And so then the book
happens without a step into it. So let me ask you, you said you've been wanting to write this book for 2 years, correct?
Yes.
You have the title.
Yes.
Do you have an outline? Do you have like a
Yes. Yes, I have an outline. I have an outline. I have 3 areas of outline. I have chapters that I've put in there. I've written introduction. I've written chapters 1 and 2. I was on a cruise for a week that I was on a nice cruise. So it was, there was only 400 people on the boat, and it was a large ship. So we had lots of
How
room.
long ago was that?
That was...
When was the last time you took an action into it?
Last summer.
Okay. It stops you from taking an action weekly.
I will use the excuse that I'm too busy, and that I also feel like I am not pleased with the work that I did. It is not up to the quality that I demand. I've got high personal expectations, and it is not matching the quality that I want, and so I'm reluctant to move forward.
When you think about sitting down to write your book, what thoughts come up for you?
We're public right now.
Okay, then say it in a public way.
This is just going to be a waste of time. I'm going to write, and I will get 2 or 3 pages written, and I will not like where it is, and I will not like where I'm going, and I'm just going to put it away and not start on it for a while.
Kind of some procrastination, kind of some perfectionism. Do you agree?
Yeah.
It's got to come out of the gate being
it's
perfect.
Both of those fit. Yeah.
Procrastination will show up and I don't have the time to do it.
Yes.
The other side of it, the perfectionism says it's not going to be good enough, so then procrastination says, well, why even bother at all?
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly. Those are.
Have you seen perfectionism carry out in other areas of your life?
Have I seen what?
Perfectionism carry out in hold you up in other areas of life?
No, I'm actually, truthfully, I'm pretty productive, except I've got a couple of wildly creative concepts that I'm working on right now that I'm having a very difficult time with, which is this book, and the other one is the contemplative lifestyle and the contemplative prayer, which is just, I use it daily. I have a practice of it. I've had practice for several years. And now I'm trying to teach it, and I can't put it into words. I don't know how to teach it, and so it's getting very frustrating at these two areas. I'm a pretty creative person, and these 2 areas of creativity are actually, I have roadblocks getting to them.
And typically, what I find when we go deeper into this conversation, what I find is there's other areas typically tied to it. Like I've talked to people who have podcasts and they don't want to go to video because they're afraid it's not going to be perfect enough when they go to video or stuff like that. So you got to give me points for how I did that. But,
Yeah.
so it carries into other areas. Okay?
Yes,
And then the
yes.
procrastination, do you notice that in any other areas?
I have an adage that I live by, and that is never do today what you can put off till tomorrow. and that means if I can put it off till tomorrow, then I'll get it done on time. But why do it today if I wait till due
if
date?
you look at that. That's procrastination at its core, right?
Yeah. Yes, it is.
Can you see where patterns, paradigms, belief systems could be playing a part in holding you up from doing this?
Yeah, but I don't know. I can see where they would, but I'm not sure what they are.
That's one step at a time. If you can understand where patterns and paradigms are playing out through procrastination, perfectionism, and possibly other things, it gives us something we can hold on to right now, right? So you can see it could be something at play in your conditioning causing it.
Okay.
Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, now I want to jump to the other side. I want you to take a second, you close your eyes, take a breath, and I want you to picture an image. You've published these books. They're bestsellers. You're asked to do keynote speaking on them. You're asked to do training on them. Like, tell me what it is that you're picturing writing these books, how it's going to change your life.
The process of writing or the end result?
The end result, once they're published and out there, what's it look like? How big are sales? How is it impacting people? Like, talk to me about all that.
Yeah, sales are not as important to me as impact. I live for influence, inspiration, and impact. And if I am impacting,
sales means the bigger the impact, though, right?
Yes, it does. It does, and that's.
Okay, so talk to me about what that looks like for you.
I have to, you can't have silence on the radio, and I have to. You're asking me to ponder. What would that look like? I would love to see audiences that have ahas, that have wisdom that is already within them, but I am able to help articulate what already exists inside, and I'm helping them.
Just said that. How do you feel about that when someone has an aha moment like that reading your book? How would that feel for you?
Oh, it's the best. Yeah. It would feel like a raison d'etre. That's yeah. What I'm here for.
Yeah. Okay.
I am here to influence.
How do you feel right now after just explaining that and getting to view that?
That was pretty cool, actually. Yeah. That was a very pleasing experience of thinking that I could have impact when I've been thinking I'm not. It's going to be that's been my resistance barrier, is that I'm afraid that it won't have impact. Not only will it not have impact, but it will be rejected.
That's more conditioning. The fear of success, the fear of failure, those are more conditioning. So let me ask you this. If you can put that aside just for a second and get into that place of being excited about it.
Okay.
When you described that, you sounded exciting. When you talked about somebody having that aha moment, I could hear your energy really rise up. Did you feel that?
I did.
Okay. We're doing this in a minute, right? So think about having a dynamic vision that's surrounding everything in your life around this, and that impacting those aha moments and everything else, and how you get to travel, and bringing you in for keynote speaking and training and things like how far it can expand. We just talked about this one little area. Now, what I'll tell you, and you just proved out what I was going to say next, is if you can keep your focus on that feeling of that aha moment, you'll no longer have to worry about perfectionism. You'll no longer have to worry about the perfectionism, the procrastination, things like that, because your excitement is going to be so high that you're going to want to wake up early and go and do that. You're going to want to make time to sit and write that, knowing that through the process it'll get edited, it'll get changed, it'll get this, and it'll have all that stuff done to it to where it ends up being that perfect masterpiece that you want. But we can't come out of the gate creating that. It's a process that we might have to let unfold. But what will block that from being a continuous excitement is exactly what you just said, Charlie. It's that fear of not being accepted, that fear of failure. That's why it's impossible to do this work alone, because we don't even know the conditioning that's causing limitation and the struggle we're experiencing. For somebody like for me, it took me years, it took me decades to figure these things out. My clients now get it within weeks because I understand it. I understand the process. I've been coached it. I've been, certified, everything else with it and such. So I can help people quickly pick that up. So anybody could go through what I went through and in 3 decades be where I'm at right now, or they can really shortcut that, which is what the SMT method does. So now that you have the excitement for this, what I would ask you is sometime over the next 24 hours, write that down. Just send it to me. Help make sure it's really powerful and make any suggestions I have for it. And it'll at least give you that vision that if you start feeling that fear, if you start feeling that, fear of failure and things like that coming up, you can go back to your vision and be led by that excitement of that rather than by fear, failure, which will halt any actions taken in it.
Yeah, the excitement will erase all the fear. The fear becomes non-existent.
There's some reprogramming that needs to happen with it, but for short term, it'll help overcome that.
That's very cool. That was a very cool exercise. You think that was a cool exercise, Paul? That's our producer Paul, keeping an eye on things. That was very cool. That was very helpful. Yes, and I will do that. I will send you an email on that.
Awesome. And anybody listening to this that is struggling with something, where I specialize in helping business owners quickly scale their business. I talked about the $7.5 to $23 million in a year. Help companies go from $300,000 a year to $5 million a year to, it's amazing how this stuff works. And I'm so excited about what I do because I get to see that change happen in people. I've never been as fulfilled in my life as I am getting to live through a servant's heart of helping people live better lives.
That's very cool.
You can set up I'll give you the link, but anybody can set up a call with me. If you have something with your business, you have something with your life, your family life, whatever, the balance and things like that.
Is it different than your website? I have your website already linked on here.
Okay, the website is one, but I'm also going to give you another link. It's coachwithjoey.com. One word, coachwithjoey, then .com. And anybody can schedule a 15-minute conversation. And what we just went through is very similar to what we'll go through in the conversation.
That is very cool. I think all our listeners should, who's ever interested in this, should give you a shout, get a hold of you. I think that would be incredibly helpful because, I just want to tell everybody, I don't know if you could catch it by the sound, but for me, to envision, I've not envisioned the results. I think I am too fearful of being prideful of doing that. And you're saying, don't be that. Look at the positives that are going to result from this. That's a great
impact.
Yep. And that's my word. Well, I'll tell you what.
Absolutely.
Joseph Drolshagen, this has been incredible. You are awesome.
This has been so much fun. Who knows? Maybe we'll do an episode 2 of writing of those books.
Yeah, do an episode 2 of the success of the books when I'm out doing training.
One of the things, if there's an interest in people schedule the 15-minute call with me, what we can do is come back. You and I can work together for a few weeks even, and start shifting those paradigms to get that book going, and then come back on, and you get to explain to your audience what process was like for you.
Well, let's talk about that. I'm very happy to talk about that. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for being on the show. Thank you. And, I love your energy. Thank you for your energy and excitement and for your great insight. I in our chat earlier, I knew you would be very insightful. Thank you so much.
It's an honor to get to be here with you.
Thank you. I also want to thank all our listeners for tuning into the next chapter with Charlie. And until next, this is Charlie Hedges signing off. Bye for now.